Let's get right into it. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I do, tell you about my background and why I'm up here. I'm going to explain exactly what a shot list is. We're going to talk about that today. It's a concept that you may have heard of. I'm going to give you my number one photo tip. I guarantee will take your photography to another level, whatever level you are. I got a couple additional tips. So a little bit about my background. I founded my company, Photo Enrichment Adventures, in about 2004, part-time. And I went full-time in 2008. So I've been doing this for about 8 years full-time now. And since then, I've organized and led over 60 international tours around the world and countless ones within the US, mostly based in Chicago. I'm originally from Chicago, so when I lived in Southern California, I really enjoyed bringing groups back to Chicago, wonderful city. I used to bring groups to Joshua Tree National Park and Death Valley, and then a lot of locations in Southern California where I lived. That 60 plus includes 15 people-to-people programs to Cuba, and I'm leaving in about a month for my 16th trip. Wonderful place. I've got a few shots in here that I'll show you. And then I've created an app called My Shot Lists for Travel. Again, this ideas of a shot list is not something that I came up with. This is something that's been around since the dawn of photography, and I'll tell you more about that. And earlier someone asked me where I live, and I said that I was kind of homeless, but in a good way. So I'm what's called location independent. It means I don't have a real home. I lived in Southern California, like I mentioned, and so about 3-4 years ago, I decided that it wasn't too smart paying rent there 12 months when I was there 3 months total, 2 weeks at a time here and there in between trips, because I'm on the road 9 months out of the year internationally. So I decided, okay, I'm just going to get rid of all my stuff and just going to live on the road pretty much. But when I'm in the US, typically you'll find me staying with family in Chicago. So that's where I'm from originally. Okay, and one other thing, I just became the co-host of a podcast called The Traveling Image Makers. And this is with my friend, Italian travel photographer, Ugo Che. And this is something I'm really excited about, something I've wanted to do for a long time. So I'd love it if you guys would have a listen to it. How many of you listen to podcasts at all? Oh, good percentage, wonderful. Yeah, it's sort of a new thing. If you're not familiar with podcasts, they're kind of an online radio show. If you have an interest in anything, there's someone doing a podcast about it. And it's a wonderful way to learn and to keep up with things and the industry. Okay, so let's talk about the importance of a shot list. What is a shot list? It's really just a checklist. It's a list of the kinds of shots that you should be aware of when you're in a place. And it's meant to be an organizational tool. So when I get to a place like Havana, a city like Havana, or a region of the world like Tuscany, or a country like Cambodia, it's kind of overwhelming thinking about, okay, where do I start? Where do I start? How do I photograph this place and come back with a nice variety of images? So working from a shot list is a great idea. And it breaks down that daunting task of wondering, where do I start? Where do I begin? What do I need to photograph when I'm there? The idea is to come back with variety. Now, as a travel photographer, I like to think that I'm a jack of all genres of photography, a master of some. And, master, I use that very loosely. I'm better at some genres of photography than others. So the idea with travel photography is if you want to bring back a well-rounded set of images that keeps the interest of the people that are looking at your photography, perhaps you're making slideshows or books or websites and galleries, you want to show a variety of images. 300 pictures of plates of food is not going to keep people's interest very long unless it's a specific presentation about food photography. So the idea is to bring back and tell the story of that place. And I like to inspire and challenge people. So something that I built into the app is a challenge me feature. And I'm not here to sell you the app, it's free. But I am here to sell you on the idea of working from a shot list, whether you use my app, a pen and paper, remember those, a Excel spreadsheet, a notes app, whatever. But what I built into the app was something called the Challenge Me feature, where you shake the device and up pops a new category. And that's the one that's you're supposed to be thinking of that morning or that day. It's probably something outside of your comfort zone. And now the more you know what you're looking for, the more you're likely to see it and notice it when you see it. So one tip that I like to give people, and I tell all my people on my trips, is have a theme in mind. So at the beginning of the trip, we do a meet and greet the first night, and I say, everyone, okay, if you don't already have a theme in mind for this trip, well, give me an example of a theme. Well, could be bicycles, the color red, people at work, hands, things like that. My ongoing theme is people reading newspapers. So every time I see someone reading newspapers, I try to get a nice shot of that. And I guarantee next time you guys see someone reading a newspaper, you're probably going to think of me or just think of that idea, what I'm telling you about. But that's what happens on these trips is we go around the room, and there's usually like 6 to 11 of us. Everyone talks about their theme. And then throughout the trip, it's like, hey, Joe, there's a bicycle. Gloria, there's a really cool window over there. Wasn't that your theme? Things like that. So the more you know what you're looking for, the more you're going to see it. And it helps to actually verbalize it by having a theme and saying that you've got it. Okay. Again, I'm not here to sell you the app. It's free. So, but I am here to sell you on the idea of working from a shot list in some form. Now, the app only works on iOS devices, so iPhone, iPad, iPod Touch. So if you're outside of that realm, then you're a little bit out of luck for using my app. I don't know if there's anyone else that has them on the Android version, but I did write a blog post where I listed all 52 categories. I showed all the pictures, all the verbiage, all the information is in that blog post. You just don't get the functionality of the app in your pocket. And I think I told you that it was free. So, okay, so let's get into just a few categories of a shot list, and I think I start out with the people category here. Yeah, so some of the shots we'll go through fairly quickly. Other ones I'll tell you a little bit of a story behind them. But this image is one that I made in Dubrovnik. I had just finished up a trip to Central Europe there, and one of the guys on my trip, he and I were staying a couple extra days. And so he said, hey Ralph, I found this really cool barber shop. This guy, it's like a museum. We ought to go and get a shave. And I shave. And so we went there the next morning. We get in there the first ones. And so we're kind of taking pictures of each other getting a shave. And if you could see in the mirror here, that's Patrick. And so I'm photographing around, and I noticed that, oh boy, he's right there in that round mirror. I'm going to move around until I get a really nice framing of his face in there. So this man is just having a cigarette while he's shaving. And so this woman walks in, sort of behind me. I think I was getting a shave at the time. And she's talking to this man in Croatian, and then she hears us speaking English. She says, in perfect English, oh, where are you guys from? And I said, well, I'm from Chicago. Patrick's from San Francisco. And she says, well, it's a good thing you guys are in here early. I says, why? She says, well, my husband used to come here before he passed away. And about 12 o'clock, this man's had 3 or 4 drinks. And you probably don't want a straight razor on your neck at that point. And so, okay, good information. We kind of lucked out getting there early. Here, young boy jumping across these sandbags. This is in Morocco. And so I'm always looking for, I love those shots with just one person, right? Just very few people. So I'm always trying to get out ahead of the crowd. This is actually fairly high noon. You can tell by his shadow. It's like right underneath him. Light wasn't too bad, but I thought it was a nice action shot. Here in Romania, I love to bring my groups to Romania. Someone asked me earlier what's my favorite place, and I mentioned Romania as one of them. And I love it because it seems like such a step back in time. And it's a place where up in the north, Maramuresh and Bukovina regions, they're up near the Ukrainian border, you see people at this time of year, and we always go about the first 2 weeks in September because that's the hay harvest. So you'll see people out there harvesting hay. There are hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of these haystacks everywhere across the landscape. And what people are doing is they're out there with these sickles cutting down the hay, and then even the young kids that have now moved to the big city because that's where the high-tech jobs are and that's where the fun jobs are, they will come back for these 2 weeks to help the family. It's just understood that you'll do that. And you'll see little kids pretending like they're helping to older folks. But you know, the one below here is throwing it up to the person up top there. And they won't fill it quite up to the top there, but maybe about halfway of what's left of that big stick. And this is what they'll use to feed the animals over the course of the winter. So you'll see older folks like this. Everyone's helping. This family had a team of horses, so you can see the haystacks in the background. This is a town called Breb. And then one thing we did, this is also Romania, I was with my tour operator, tour guide there on the scouting trip. And we were driving, and he says, you know, I know this family of sheep herders just about a half hour up this road. They live on a really beautiful piece of property. Would you like to go meet them? I says, absolutely. So we go out there, and so the wife here is cutting some sheep's cheese, and this is sheep's milk. We've got this natural light coming in from the window. Here they are herding the sheep into what's called a sheep fold. It's sort of a funnel so that they can come out one or two at a time, and they milk them. Then they filter the milk through a bandana, get all the impurities out, or at least the big ones. And then the boys, the two sons, they're just kind of posing for me at this point, but the father actually sleeps out with the animals every night in this little corrugated like shack about the size and height of that table there. And every night he sleeps out there with his dog, and the dog warns him if there's any wolves or bears or anything that could hurt the animals. Well, he sleeps in one of these sheep's blankets, so they wanted to show me that. Here are the mother and father having a little smooch. But it was really a step back in time. I mean, to see how these people live in this two-room house, just very humbling, but so interesting. And those are the kind of experiences that I say I've got to bring my group back to. I want them to see this. I want them to have this feeling that I'm having. Here we are in Hoi An, Vietnam. And of course, this is a throw net fisherman. This is how they fish oftentimes. It's kind of tough to get these kinds of shots. It helps to be on continuous mode, so you get, and so you really need to be able to time it just perfectly if you're only going to take a single shot. Here a woman also in Hoi An. She's wearing that typical conical hat known as a non, N-O-N hat. And at first I thought maybe when I saw these before, very naively thinking that this is maybe something for the tourists. But this is what they wear all the time. The ladies, this is sort of the ladies' version. Once in a while you'll see men wearing these specific hats. The men's version is a little bit different. Here, Copper Canyon, Mexico. So there in Copper Canyon, you've got the Tarahumara Indians. You may have heard of them. They're known as the running people. There's a book out called Born to Run. You may have heard of it. But they have this affinity for long distance running. They can run for days at a time and in what are essentially flip-flops. It's mostly the men that do this. But Copper Canyon is bigger and deeper than the Grand Canyon. And most people have never even heard of it or know where it is, but it's in the state of Chihuahua in Mexico. And it's got one of the great train rides of the world right through it called El Chepe. Chihuahua Pacifico is the name of it. But it goes up and down the canyon every day. There's actually 2 trains. They kind of cross each other every day. It's the only passenger train in all of Mexico. But that's why I wanted to show the railroad tracks behind her. Usually I don't like stuff going through people's head like that. But the women will wear these handmade flower print dresses, little girls to the older women. They almost all wear a bandana. You'll see some other shots that I'll show you. But they're very shy, quiet, very serious people. You rarely, if ever, see them smile. Here's one of the Tarahumara men, and he's wearing the type of sandal that they use for running days at a time. We were driving through this one town, Cusarari, and it was pouring rain, and it was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and these men were playing like a ball game. It was like soccer and similar to soccer. And we were asking the guide, what's up? What are these guys doing? It was, well, they've been playing that game since 6 o'clock in the morning yesterday. It's like 4 o'clock today, and it could go on for another couple days. And it's just incredible, their stamina and the fact that they can do this for days at a time. But here, I'm positioning myself, so I want to make sure that his head is against that brown door right behind him. I don't want him part in the door, part in the wall. So moving around my subject when I can. Here, one of the older Tarahumara women. So she's wearing, again, those flower print dresses, the bandana. Now these people live, many of them, in caves and cliff overhangs till this day. And so we get to see how and where they live. It's pretty fascinating. They've got their own style of weaving and souvenirs that they sell. This wonderful natural light coming in from the side. This is a young Tarahumara girl standing in the doorway of one of their churches, which are kind of interesting. They're made out of stone, and there's no pews. So you walk into the church completely empty. There's a few benches along the side, but when they have services, they all just stand in the center there. Some of the young girls inside one of the churches. There's 3 sisters. Here is that church from a little bit further back, timing it so that I've got this woman against that one little clear white wall there, instead of getting her against that fence or the very busy brick or stone wall on the left-hand side. And then here's a black and white version that I made of the same shot. Those clouds really popped with the black and white. Now this is an image I made in India just a couple months ago. I told you I was there scouting. This is inside Humayun's tomb in Delhi. And again, just that one person sitting there, some natural light. I like that he's silhouetted in a way. But nice detail from the very dark part all the way over to the lighter part. Now that screen on the left, they call this a screen. That's hand carved out of a single piece of marble. And there's dozens of them just at this complex. But it just fascinates me that someone carved these by hand, and they're all over the country, of course, but just this one place, there must be dozens of them, but they're called screens. This inside the Jama Masjid, which is the Friday mosque there in Delhi. And So here, that one person there, a couple people walking, very simple. I always try to get out early to get ahead of the crowds, right? So this is when you're going to find these things. You're not going to see other tourists necessarily, or you're more able to shoot around them instead of tour groups walking through the more popular places. Here, a man who was fixing a whip there on the steps of the Jama Masjid Mosque. And then walking around the streets of New Delhi, this man irons clothes for people. So you bring him your clothes. This iron, he puts hot coals in it. That's what heats it up. And then he irons. And he let me try it. And it was very difficult. And I think I screwed up a pair of pants. I didn't burn them, but I screwed them up. And but I found out that he charges 7 cents a pair of pants. Be nice to have someone like that around the corner, wouldn't it? Here at the Red Fort in Delhi, so that one person, we were the first people to walk into the fort that day, but just got that one guy standing there instead of a picture of just a bunch of empty arches. Yes, ma'am? Tripod? No tripod, no. These are all handheld, almost all of them, except for some night shots that I'll show you a little bit later. Here again, positioning myself so the man's head is against that green background. I don't want it against the brown and green. Here too. So I'm always thinking about the background, or I try to. There's times when I think, oh boy, why didn't I think of that, or why didn't I see that? But I'm always trying to look deeper into the scene, what's going on behind and in front of the person. That I could just take a step to the left or right, move in or out, up or down, to change that perspective and make it a much better shot. Here a woman at the Amber Fort in Jaipur. So her and a bunch of her ladies will sweep up the fort. So that's a broom that she's got there. But just these stunningly beautiful colors that you'll see in India. Here a woman also at Amber Fort. So I like the way she's on the left side looking into the scene, into that negative space. You still get a feel for those arches. So I'm moving to the left a little bit to open up those arches. You can imagine if I'm straight on, they're going to be overlapped. But as I move, they're changing. Here, this is in Jodhpur, it's known as the Blue City. And so we're walking sort of around the back of the fort, and we saw these two women sitting there in these beautiful saris. And the one on the right must have heard us walking up. We were probably talking a little bit. And so she looked around, and so I got a quick shot of that. Then I walked around the front, and I got a landscape version of the two ladies. Found out that they're a mother and daughter. Then I took a quick vertical shot. Then I zoomed in on the daughter. Got a vertical shot of just her. And then I got in on her face, another version, landscape version of just her, sort of a portrait of her face. So those were 5 shots. I probably took 9 or 10 total. I only showed you 5. But I probably made those in 30 seconds, a total of 30 seconds. I'm not sitting there for 15 minutes working it, because they're not going to sit there for that long. I don't want to sit there and take 15 minutes, but you have to be ready. You have to have your settings right and just go boom, 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 shoot. So I say get your camera into a point and shoot type of mode. I don't mean put it on auto, although if that's what you shoot in, that's fine. But get your camera so it's a point and shoot, and what by that I mean, so the settings are ready for those conditions. Now all you got to do is point and shoot. You got to recognize a photo opportunity and shoot. Here in Pushkar, you may have heard of Pushkar Camel Fair. some young girls. I assume they're sisters. Our translator wasn't with us at this time, but they came up and they wanted their picture taken. And so I got one or two shots, and then I saw this man in the background on the left, and I took a half a step to the left so that I could reveal him. And I liked his sort of look, you know, what are you doing? Looking at me and these young girls. And then I just love the eyes on this man. Boy, he's just got this piercing gaze. And these were some men that we met. They were just having some tea. And so love to walk around and, you know, find people like this. And if I've got my translator with us, we can, you know, have a little bit of a conversation. But otherwise, it's all about sign language, smiles, and that kind of thing. Here in Varanasi, India, and I saw this man walking from about here, and I made maybe 4 or 5 shots, but I wanted him in that archway. I wanted him in an archway. So I think I got 2 of the 3 shots I made, I got him in an arch, but it takes a little practice, timing, but you know, I want him in that mid-step. I don't want his legs overlapped. So that one worked out. But always being aware of the background, and timing is so important when it comes to photography in general, but certainly travel photography, because things are often moving. And then this one of the self-proclaimed, it's a sadhu. These are self-proclaimed holy men. And this is also in Varanasi. Now, another question that comes up, do I tip people? This was probably the only person I've shown so far that I've tipped, especially in India. He let me you know, stand there for a minute or two, get some shots, and he was asking for a donation. This inside the Jodhpur fort. Again, those screens carved out of a single piece of marble. But I just love the way this light was coming in. They silhouetted the man. No one there. I want to shoot wide enough to get both arches in. And then this shot, it was really funny to me. And so I saw this man. He was doing something back there, and he must have heard me, turned around, so I made a quick shot. Certainly trying to frame outside of all, you know, this thing here to the left of the missing poster there on the left. So as I'm looking at my images later, I realize he looks exactly like that guy in the missing picture, doesn't he? Yeah. Exactly. I mean, I found him. I just think that's so funny, because this was like his little cubby hole. I don't know if he lived there, worked there, what, but he's got a missing sign of himself right there. I thought that was great. This a woman in Bhutan. So clothing and style, what I call fashion and style, and it doesn't have to be like high fashion or anything, but what are people wearing in a place that's distinctive? So sort of like those non hats of the women in Vietnam. This is this handmade bamboo hat that you'll see the women in this part, Bumthang, Bhutan, wearing. And it's just a beautiful hat. It's really beautifully made. And then she's wearing what's called a kira. That's the type of outfit that she's wearing. They've got these brooches here. We were told that some of them could be hundreds of years old and worth thousands of dollars, but very distinctive to that place. So she was out there picking the heads off of the wheat stalks there. You get a better idea of what she's wearing. Yeah, this woman, she's probably 60 years old. Not very old, but very hard life that they lived there. And So again, positioning myself so I've got her against that brighter part in the background as much as possible. But this is not like I spent a lot of time. I got one shot and one and done. And then here we went to a festival while we were in Bhutan. And so I positioned myself because I wanted this little girl between the reeds on the left. And then I realized I caught this one blowing a bubble right at the exact time. So that was just luck, just lucky. And they were actually pretty high up on a hill, so I had to zoom in to get this shot. This little girl in Cambodia selling me these bracelets that I get. I kind of collect these, buy them from the kids. They go to school half day and then they sell these things. And so, you know, focusing on her eyes, using a very shallow depth of field, but you can tell that she's holding a bracelet there. And then this is a woman that you may have seen pictures of from Cuba. She's kind of famous. She's on a lot of covers of magazines and things. But she's one of the cigar ladies that you'll see in Cuba. They kind of sit against really nice backgrounds, fortunately. And then they're always looking for a kook. CUC, they want a Cuban convertible peso. That's how they make a living. So, and if you don't give it to them, they get a little huffy. They'll get huffy, right? But yeah, she's just a wonderful background. And I've never seen anyone else sit against her wall. So I think they've got territories too. Yeah, she would not have it. Okay, establishing shot. So this is a term that comes from the film industry, getting that overall establishing shot, letting your viewers have an idea of what the scene's like. You'll often see a movie open up with an establishing shot. So this is above Dubrovnik, you may recognize. And so Dubrovnik's this walled city down here, and then there's quite a mountain up here, and so we drove up and got a nice viewpoint down. And I was with my local guide, so he gets on the phone and he calls his girlfriend. He says, honey, there's a rain shower coming, bring in the laundry. Because he saw it moving right towards her house and she had just done laundry and it was out drying outside. My local tour operator that I work with that helps me put my trips together, he said he's been up there dozens of times and he's always wanted to get this shot. I was up there for the first time and he wanted to get a shot with the storm in the background, and just luck, just being there at that time. So every now and then I'll try to convert something to black and white and see what it looks like. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Is that handheld also?
Oh, handheld, yep. Now this wouldn't have been, and I'd been up there many times. This was probably the same night, but later. We're going to talk about the blue hour in a little bit, but we would get those first shots with a little bit more daylight, maybe go have a bite to eat or get some other perspectives, come back and then get these shots. So I would have used a tripod here, so it's starting to get dark. So here we are. There's actually a funicular that comes up right from the city. And as I'm looking down, there's a herd of sheep here, or goats. Goats, yeah, they're goats. And they were just walking up the side of the mountain. But this is one of the most beautiful cities that you can imagine if you haven't been, but get out early. They've got these cruise ships that dock offshore, and then 5,000 people just flood into this very small town. But if you're out there early or later in the day, then you should be okay. Lake Bled, Slovenia, yep. So this shot, I've taken dozens and dozens of versions of the shot. Here, I've placed it right in the center. I don't like this right here, but normally I would, clean something like that out, crop in a little bit, but I want to show you these little things like that. I've got this saying, I say either it's in or it's out. So I either want to see what this is, or I don't at all. I don't want it just peeking in or out. Here above Halong Bay. Yep. Yep. So this is up at T-Top Mountain. So it's about 400 steps up, looking down. Now this we went to, outside of Paro, Bhutan, is the tiger's nest. You may have heard of the tiger's nest. Well, we get up there and this is what we see, right? So it's just totally socked in. It's at about 10,000 feet above sea level. But it didn't take long before it started to reveal itself. And we were up there, maybe 10 minutes before it cleared. And I got this. So got to be ready. Sometimes you get skunked and it doesn't clear. This is a shot I wanted to show you. This I just found this as I was putting the slideshow together, and I wanted to throw it up here. This is from my Instagram. It's a shot that I made with my phone from a moving bus of this guy going at probably 30, 40 miles an hour. He's got 3 full-size live pigs on the back of his scooter. These are live pigs. This is Cambodia. So isn't that funny? I mean, he's like this. He can't even get closer to the handlebars. 3 full-size. Someone said, are those pigs in a blanket? Yeah, so I just wanted to throw that in there because I thought it's so funny. And then you've got Siem Reap. This is Angkor Wat. So I'm not someone that gets out at sunrise every day. I just don't. But this is one place where if I'm going to go, I'm going to want to get out. I bring our group out at sunrise at Angkor Wat. It's the law. You got to go do that. So it can be very, very crowded, though. There's going to be thousands of people there. There were thousands of people there behind me when I made this shot. But you can still get, a shot like this with no people. So the sun comes up from behind, so the sunrise. So it's lighting up those clouds, so hopefully you'll have clouds. And then what most people do, and I'll give you a little tip, is those 5,000 people or 2,000, probably like 2,000 people, will go into the temple this way. And what we do is we go all the way around the back and come in the back way. And we pretty much have it to ourselves until we run into that crowd. So that's a way to be at this very popular place. It's the largest religious complex in the world, and to be able to have it fairly to yourself, at least for a period of time. And then here, yep, I call this one an American in Cuba. So it's these wonderful old cars, and now these license plates have gone away. So if you go to Cuba, you're not going to see these license plates. It used to be really nice because they had blue, black, yellow, all these orange, all these different colors meant different things. One was an official car, private car, state car, different types of license plates. But now they're all those, kind of black on white Euro-style license plates, so you won't see that anymore. Food gastronomy. So you probably figured out that we're talking about a shot list, and I've put the category up above, but many of these shots could be many different categories, right? There rarely will a shot be one thing, one category and nothing else. This shot could be flags. So you can see the Cuban flag in the upper left. There's nothing more distinctive about a country than its flag. So I'm going to want to show that, and the Cubans are very proud of their flag. See it everywhere. Could be language, el socialismo. Could be people, markets, food. So a lot of different categories for a single image. Here a man in Delhi. I shot the travel and cultural images for a cookbook on the regional cuisine of Mexico. It was a pretty plum assignment about 5 or 6 years ago. And we went to, it was a 35-day assignment. We went to like 40 locations. We had 13 intra-Mexico flights. That's the first time I went to Copper Canyon. Copper Canyon was the one place I said, I want to bring a group back to on that whole trip. I mean, I love Mexico. I lived there. I lived in Mexico City. But so make a long story longer, we get to Oaxaca, and we're meeting with all these wonderful chefs. And so our local guide says, we've got this man who does something called cooking with stones. So, okay, let's go see what that's about. So he takes this cold soup broth, and then he puts in some red, white, and green, the colors of the Mexican flag, some onions, tomatoes, cilantro, lime. And then he puts a hot stone in it to cook it. That's how it gets cooked, by this flaming hot stone that he's got on this little stove. Actually, he took them from the stove where there's fire on the stones, and they placed them on this plate. But then when he wanted to cook the sort of soup, he put that flaming hot stone in the soup, and that's what cooked it. It's kind of an interesting way. And they explained to us that this is what the fishermen did by the riverside. That's how they would cook their food, because you got those river stones. And this is one of the best cups of coffee I ever had. It was in Turkey. And so I ordered a cup of coffee. If you've been there, you know that the coffee's really thick. You have to wait like 10 minutes for it to settle. And you only drink about 80% of it because the bottom is just absolute mud. And so they give you a couple sweets, a little piece of chocolate, and everyone gets a cigarette. I thought that was just a great way to present a cup of coffee. And a little something more subtle is this tulip on the placemat. The Turks will tell you that Turkey is the birthplace of the tulip. It's not the Netherlands, which a lot of people think, but I've heard this from many people, not just the Turks. So that's kind of a subtle little thing that tells you that it's made in Turkey. Here, a woman who sells those non hats in Vietnam, having a little breakfast before the rush. This is a woman that I met in Vietnam, and we were driving along the side of the road. This was on my scouting trip, so I asked my driver, I saw her and a couple of women out there in this field, and I said, hey, could we pull over? So we did, and I always ask my guides to engage with the person, talk to them. Sometimes it distracts them, it gets me different shots, they're not just looking at me. If I speak the language, which I only speak English and Spanish, I'll do this myself. Or I always say, try to shoot in pairs so that, while I'm getting the shot of the person looking at me, the other person's getting a more candid shot. Well, so I'm sort of up on a little hill here, and she's down in the field, he's down here talking to her. And he's talking, and he comes up to me, he says, she wants to know what your name is. I said, tell her my name's Ralph. So he tells her that, says something else, comes back up to me, says, she wants to know where you're from. I said, well, I'm from Chicago, United States, and I'm really enjoying your country. And he would explain that to her, and she'd say something else, and he said, she wants to know what you do. What do you do for a living? I says, well, I'm a travel photographer. He must have been explaining that to her, comes back up to me and says, are you single? I said, yeah, I am, but probably not very geographically desirable. I thought that was so funny. But here are the other ladies that she was working with. I like the anonymity of this shot with the ladies all with their known hats. So they're actually planting the rice here. They're not picking it. Here in Casablanca, Morocco, again, I like the anonymity of this shot, so cutting the heads, the people off here, but you can see this transaction going on. Wonderful colors there in the market beautiful display. Casablanca gets a little bit of a bad rap, but you know, it's just kind of a place to fly in and out of. But I really like the market there. I think it's got a lot of nice things going for it. Landscape. So here's a few landscape shots. This was made from El Chepe, the train I told you about in Copper Canyon. There's this very short window of time where if you're lucky you see this wonderful waterfall out in the distance, shooting from the moving train. Here I was with a friend of mine at Mesa Arch at Canyonlands National Park. It's a very popular composition you've probably seen many times. But he and I were there in early November, and we went to, I think, 10 national parks, and we had 7 of them to ourselves. Not another person around. I've seen pictures of 30 photographers lined up with tripods at this exact spot. We were the only 2 there. And so I had my tripod, and I'm photographing. I pull back, and he's up on the arch. And it's a 1,000-foot drop straight down behind him. And I like almost fell to my knees when I saw him because I'm deathly afraid of heights. But apparently he wasn't at all. And it's a very rough, you know, it's not like flat like a table or something. It's very rough, as you can see. I would not be up there. Now this shot I show you, I like it. It's, you know, kind of nice pattern. It's a little bit abstract. I like the color, but it's missing something, wouldn't you say? So I'm standing there with my local guide, and I said, boy, I would love for someone in red to walk into this scene, right? You're probably thinking the same thing. It needs red, doesn't it? And a minute later, this guy walks into the scene. I swear to God, I couldn't have set it up. And it was just perfect. But you can see the difference between those 2 shots, right? I mean, just that one little person gives a sense of scale, what I call a human touch. Makes you think, you know, what's that guy doing there? What's it like to be there? I wish I was there. But that's, again, luck and being ready. These are those similar fields right there. This is Punakha in Bhutan. This is a shot that I made from the back of a camel. So I'm on this camel. I'm being led by this Tuareg camel herder. And you can imagine when I'm on the camel that he is overlapped with the camel's head, right? So I needed to wait. Now this is with my iPhone. I'm leaning off the camel like this, trying to see, you know, separate them. Like I said, I'm trying to separate them. I want him against a clear background. I almost fell off the camel. I guess I was doing this landscape, which I always try to do. And got this shot. Again, very lucky, but with the iPhone. I mean, I like to think it's a pretty nice shot. I was actually a finalist in the Travel Photographer of the Year smartphone category this year. Didn't win, but but I liked the image, and but again, lucky and taking a chance, almost falling off camel to get it. This is another iPhone shot that I made in Slovenia.
Those the Julian Alps?
They are the Julian Alps, yep. So I'll just show you that again if you missed it. But again, trying to get that clear background. I don't want him against the dunes or with the, you know, piece of the grass coming out of his head in the background, something like that. So I'm really trying to be aware of that. So the reason I showed you these is because you can get some nice shots with an iPhone. And the first tip in my book, number 1, is that it's not about the camera. And I'm sure you've heard that before. Best camera is the one that you've got with you. So whatever that is, make your best with it. Back to Lake Bled. So up at the Bled Castle and shooting down. But I just love these clouds. Kind of early in the morning, about 9 o'clock, not too early. A little different version of that same scene. So you can see that the castle is out on it's actually a church. I'm at the castle here, but the church is on an island. And you can walk around this whole lake right at lake level. There's a path all the way around it. I highly recommend it. I think it's 4 kilometers, maybe 2.5 miles around. Beautiful walk. Get all kinds of beautiful angles of this church. And there's some really nice spots right in here in the morning. Some beautiful, beautiful light. Great, great, great place. And it's maybe 45 minutes outside of Ljubljana, the capital. So here I am at that spot I just pointed out. You could see the castle where I was on the previous shot shooting down here. Wanted to separate those so they're not overlapped. But you get some really wonderful reflections. I've been there when there's no clouds, when there's beautiful clouds, storms. And this is in Boine, which is just outside of Lake Bled. Here positioning myself so that the photographer is against a clear background. I don't want him in the shade here, this reflection. But moving around your subject, watching that background change. Adding things or taking away things that you do or don't want in the shot. Here on the Mekong Delta in Vietnam. So getting down a little bit because I want I don't want this horizon to come through this woman's head. I want her sort of in the middle of a stroke, not overlapped, and so it takes some practice, some good timing. Here, Rabbit Island in Cambodia. This just a very simple scene in Tuscany. And this is early morning. And I'll show you what the overall scene looked like. So I'm always trying to take that overall establishing shot, medium shots, and detail shots. Turning the camera vertically, horizontally, with people, without people. So you can get a lot of variety of shots standing in the same exact spot. So don't just get that one postcard shot and walk away. Work it a little bit if you've got time. So this is what the overall scene looked like. Nice leading line goes right into that dilapidated home. Here, Havana, so we've got the waves crashing at times. And in the background, you'll see the lighthouse, the famous lighthouse there, El Morro Fortress. Details. So we go to Kampot, which is a place in Cambodia near a town called Kep, and it's famous for the peppercorns that they grow there, these pepper plants. So it starts out green like this, but then depending on how they process them, they make these other white, sort of red and black pepper, but it really is wonderful. And then here the man was kind of sorting them out and washing them and drying them. But I just loved his hands, and so I want to get in on those details of his hands. Here a man in Romania, he and his wife were out picking potatoes, same time of year as the hay harvest. And this in Turkey, this was a little shop that we were walking by as a group, and I noticed that this man was making these sandals. And so it was a very, very small shop, maybe this big. And so a couple of us walked in at a time. And this is more of a medium shot, but kind of an overall establishing shot because I couldn't get much further back. So I want to show what he's making. And then I get a little bit more on top of him. I'm sort of a medium shot, shooting down, vertical. Then I get closer in as he's cutting. So, working that scene, showing the story, getting a variety of images of the exact same scene. Here, my local guide in Lithuania, and we were also stopped for some people harvesting potatoes. And the man said, I've got this beautiful raspberry field right over there if you'd like to go see those. So he said, sure. So we walk over there and we picked some. And these were the size of strawberries. I mean, they were huge. It was wonderful. They were just popping them like nothing. But so now I've got sort of a medium shot landscape version. And then I get in even closer. So variety of images. Never know when I need a vertical shot for a layout that I'm doing of a book or something. Landscape version. Instead of cropping in on a landscape version to get a vertical, it doesn't take 2 seconds to go landscape vertical and get the same subject, 2 very different compositions. Everyday life. So people just doing what they do, whatever that is, sitting in doorways, looking out windows, smoking cigarettes, whatever it is. This is a barber in Bhaktapur, Nepal, and business wasn't so hot, so he's having a little snooze. I saw his reflection in the mirror there, so I moved around till I got a nice composition of him with the reflection. Here another one of those sadhus, these self-proclaimed holy men in Pashupatinath, which is just outside of Kathmandu, and he was having a little snooze. Another holy man. So I spent maybe a minute or two with this man. I probably got 12 different shots. More overall, landscape version. Getting in front of him a little bit with the cigarette. And then I would zoom in on his hands. I don't know if I showed that one. No. But, working that scene, but not taking too much time. Maybe a minute or two. Here's Siem Reap, Cambodia. Another man working with a throw net there in the river. So again, this takes timing. Really need to be patient, be ready. May take a couple tosses for you to get it right. Here in a floating village called Kampong Phluk in Cambodia. This man's fixing his fishing nets. And you can see that difference between the color and the black and white. I hired these little boats for us to go out into this flooded forest. And so we're getting ready to jump on these boats and just look down, and it's mostly women that are working these boats. And this lady had her baby with her, and he just gave me this really wonderful look as I was photographing. Here, a woman in Kep at the crab market. So there's a very famous crab market there. And this is a very distinctive hat that you'll only see in Cambodia, or that I've only seen in Cambodia. And certainly helps against the sun. They're out in the sun quite a bit in the fields. They're working the water. But they'll have crabs, live crabs in these bamboo little traps. And this isn't necessarily how they catch them, but this is how they hold them until they make a sale. And then you want to buy 10 crabs, I'll go out into the water, get them, they're pretty fresh, they're crawling around, and bring them back in for you. Here, another sleeping barber, this one in Hanoi, Vietnam. And so I wanted to get a shot of him reflected in the mirror, but I was having trouble doing that because I needed to get right behind him. And it just wasn't a nice shot. And then I realized that these women, I'm shooting this way, they were back there, and I was able to get them reflected in there. And I like that contrast. Here a man is not in jail, kind of looks like he is, but he's just looking out a window. This is also in Pashupatinath, Nepal. But I love this orange headdress that he's got on, and these eyes and that look, the fact that he's looking away. Some beautiful young girls in Alexandria, Egypt, we're having some fun with. One of the famous cigar ladies in Cuba, her name's Guillermina, and I see her almost every time I go back. She's always got this cat, and it often changes. I think she tends to have old cats, and they must die over the course of the year. This is a shot that I made in Cuba, in Trinidad, Cuba, and I brought it back home. I was looking through my images later, and I just assumed that he had a piece of cotton or hearing aid in his ear. And then I zoomed in on it, and I realized it's a 25 centavo coin. And this is something that they do for good luck. But can you make it out? It says 25 right there. So these are traditions that people have that I'm certainly going to want to try to capture. Again, this is luck because I didn't even know what it was. I just saw a nice face against a great background. But then when I looked closer, I got lucky with this one. I love this one. This man's shining this other guy's gym shoes. And if you've been to Cuba, you know Cristal is one of the famous beers there, right? Bucanero and Cristal. So that adds a little sense of place. Here on the Malecón there in Cuba, we saw this earlier, the lighthouse in the background. But you walk along the Malecón here, that's that waterfront, and you'll see people playing trombones, drinking rum, just hanging out. It's they call it the couch in Spanish. They refer to it as the couch because hardly anyone has air conditioning, maybe a fan, but to socialize, they go down to the Malecón at night, and you'll just see thousands of people on the Malecón, and that's sort of their front porch. The houses can be crowded. They want to get out. The air's stale. Boom, let's go out to the Malecón and socialize. I bet you know where this shot was made, right? Cuba. So I'm trying to provide that sense of place more and more. And so we've got a nice pretty girl sitting here, beautiful smile, but that painting of Castro in the background really gives that sense of place, where the shot was made. So I'm trying to do that more and more. Again, look at that background, the foreground, something I could add that will help to tell that story, give that sense of place. Here we were also in Havana, photographing these wonderful old American cars that you'll see there. And but who walks up with this cute little boy in a Cuba t-shirt? It just doesn't get any better than that. I could set these shots up, pay someone, a model or something to do this, but man, how fulfilling is it when it just happens serendipitously, or I think that's the word. It just couldn't have timed it better to be there for something like this to happen, but got to be ready to get that shot. Another tip is don't shoot till your memory card is completely full, because that's when these things happen. And you're changing out your card and the kid's gone, or something else happens. So, 10 or 15 shots left, who cares? Change it where there's a lull in the, in the shots. Boom, change it on your time, not when you have to. Buy more cards. They're so cheap now. Don't think, I got to get every shot out of this card. Change it when you're ready. Same thing with batteries. Don't change it when it completely goes out. Change it when you're ready to change it. And always have a backup. Here, a man in Trinidad, later in the day, so we got these wonderful shadows. Another man in Trinidad. I just love his pet rooster, kind of sitting there on a little leash. But I'm trying to frame around the top of the fence there, the guitar case. Now, this was made probably in 2011, and I go back there and they've replaced those two missing parts of the fence, and now they're just raw wood, and it doesn't look quite as good. Here, a man that photographed in Chefchaouen, Morocco, one of my favorite places in the world. It's definitely my favorite in Morocco. And it's known as the Blue City. There's a lot of blue cities in the world. We talked earlier about Jodhpur being a blue city as well. But everything's sort of blue, light blue, mauve, these purples and things like that. But found this wonderful background and saw this man walking with this blue bucket. He's wearing a jalaba. And I waited until he got to a clear part of the background, and then I made the shot. And I'm photographing over people, actually. So kind of got lucky with this one. Went back the next time I was there, and it was completely being repainted. And so that photo opportunity was gone. Quick story, I was once in Cairo, Coptic Cairo, and I found this beautiful door. It must have been 300-400 years old, raw wood, these big, metal sort of bolts in it, just really nice detail and everything. Came back the next year, and there was a man painting it. It had been this beautiful, weathered raw wood door for 300 years, and he's painting it. He's like, oh, doesn't it look nice? And I'd actually had a picture of that old door because I just fell in love with this door. I wrote a whole blog post about it and everything. And I showed it to him, and he's like, oh, doesn't it look nice, now that I'm painting it? I was like, oh. But that's why to get these shots while you can, because you never know what's going to happen if you go back. Here, a woman in Bhutan. You can see these prayer wheels here. You always want to spin them clockwise with your right hand. And the reason I show this again is because I'm timing. I want to get this woman against this clear part of the frame there. She's kind of walking out of the frame, which is usually not ideal, but what's really ideal? Break the rules. It's not really a rule. But what's funny, and I unfortunately I don't have a zoomed in shot of it, but when I zoomed in on her, she's holding a Polaroid picture that one of my people on this trip had given her. And it's like her and him. When I zoomed in on it, I'm like, what is she holding? I zoomed in on it. It's a Polaroid picture that he had given her. I thought that was so funny. I should zoom in on it and show that shot as well. Here in Morocco, man selling saffron in these little cups. Very inexpensive. This would probably be like $20 here, don't you think? But there is maybe $1. It's dollar equivalent. And so he wasn't keen on being photographed. So looking down, I'm photographing his wares, and then I realized, okay, this is a mirror, and he's perfectly reflected there. And so I just moved around a little bit, and I got a really nice shot of his face. So this is a way to get people shots that's a little bit on the sly. Family again at the Jama Masjid Mosque in Delhi. Also inside. You see a lot of people just resting at these mosques because they've got this nice cool marble and there's a lot of shade there. Natural wonders. So I brought a group up to Lapland, Finnish and Swedish Lapland. This was actually on my scouting trip 2 years ago, but it shows up pretty nicely here, even with these lights. But the the Northern Lights are absolutely fabulous. Anyone seen them anywhere? Yeah, just gorgeous. And so they actually move vertically. I don't know if you knew that, and they kind of swirl. And so this is about a 12 or 15 second shot. And it doesn't require any special equipment, maybe, certainly a tripod, but nothing more than, like a remote control and a camera that can get a longer shutter speed. So it's nothing special, but really fascinating. And when you're standing there, they're not, at least this time, they weren't super impressive. But when you're sitting there and the camera's recording 12 or 15 seconds of this, you can imagine how it's sort of imprinting itself on the sensor, and you get this really brilliant green. But this has to do with the solar wind. That's what that's why the Northern Lights are. This one I made because it's maybe a little difficult to see in this light, but here's one of my fellow photographers lit up in the LCD screen of her camera. She's on her tripod lining up a shot, and then you get the lights behind her. This Copper Canyon. So this is the view from our hotel room in Copper Canyon. So you walk out of your room and there it is. Again, bigger and deeper than the Grand Canyon, but just a fabulous place. I can't say enough about it because it's just got everything. Number one, it's like a 3-hour plane ride south of here. There's very little time change, 1 or 2 hours maybe. And you've got this fascinating culture. It's hardly visited by anyone. There's a few tourists, but they're mostly Mexican tourists. And you've got this wonderful train ride right up and down it. And wonderful food there as well in that area. This Cusadade waterfall there in Copper Canyon. Just a short hike off the main road. It's about 100 feet tall. Here, Iceland, one of our tour participants in a wonderful red jacket, and got this. So this is that waterfall that you can actually walk behind. Yeah, some of you have been there, I'm sure. And so you see this rainbow here, but I actually saw a 360-degree rainbow. I'd never seen that before. It's like a circular rainbow. It's pretty cool. It disappeared in like a second, so I couldn't get a shot of it. But here you can see people walking behind it. It's a little bit misty. You kind of have to be aware of getting mist on your camera and lens and stuff, but really wonderful place. Another waterfall, including this bridge down here to give that sense of scale. A little bit longer exposure. You can see how I'm sort of feathering the water in there, like a 2 or 3 second shot. Definitely on a tripod. Up in Western Ireland, or not Ireland, Iceland. Yeah, beautiful iceberg lagoons there. Have you guys seen goats in a tree? Yep, some of you have. So this is on the road between Essaouira and Marrakesh in Morocco. And these are set up. These are set up for tourists, but they really do climb trees and always have. And what happens, these are the argan trees. You've heard of argan oil? So they go up there and the goats will eat the argan seeds. They'll process them. I'll say that gently. And then they would be harvested, the seeds, and they would make not only cosmetics out of it, but also consumables, sort of like, it's kind of like a Nutella or a peanut butter. And it's actually really good. It's got a special little flavor to it. No, it's certainly cleaned. But
Do you like a particular
this is.
goat?
Do I like a particular
I
one?
mean, it's deposit.
I like that white one there at the top. Yeah, so I just love this. And what's great, I like the little boy right there, the herder right there. But this is something that goats naturally will do in that area, but the locals have taken advantage of it and used it as a way to make some money. Night scenes, so here we are in Ljubljana, Slovenia. This is actually morning. So this was one morning that we got out maybe 5, 6 o'clock before it got bright. Certainly with our tripods here in Split. So I was talking about the blue hour. This is the blue hour. So blue hour is before sunrise and after sunset. And I don't know what the science is behind it, but sometimes you'll see it, sometimes you won't. But I've gotten some really nice shots. This is the view from our hotel room in Istanbul. On the left is the Hagia Sophia. You got the Bosphorus in the background, and then the Blue Mosque here. But wonderful blue hour. That's the same composition at night. So I say, if you're in a place for a period of time, try to get the same scene at different times of day. Same exact composition, different times of day. And you'll see very different results. Here, this is in Rovinj, Croatia. This is a 30-second exposure that I made. That's why the water's so flat, because that water's been moving for 30 seconds through the scene. The clouds are a little bit blurred out because they've been moving for 30 seconds through the scene. But the reason I show this is I was looking at my metadata, and I made this shot 4 minutes later. Same exact settings, everything, but 4 minutes later. And what fascinated me was that it's sort of like the blue hour just turned on in those 4 minutes. I'll show that to you again. So 4 minutes earlier, nice sunset. But then, you really get that blue hour effect here. Same exact settings. This is a shot that I made. You can see it here. That looks pretty good from there. This is a shot that I made in Hoi An, Vietnam. And so these two little sisters are selling candles in these little containers, and then you would buy them for about $1 equivalent, make a wish, and put them in the river. And you look down the river, and there's hundreds of them, these candles floating down the river. And so I'm like, well, do I really want to be a part of this, sort of natural disaster of all these things going down the river? And then I realized that their little brothers are down the river, picking them up and selling them back to you. So I didn't feel too bad about it. But this is just the natural light of the candles coming up, lighting up their faces. Handheld. This is a handheld shot. As long as I don't have any coffee, I'm pretty steady. This is an image I made at the Pushkar Camel Fair. So there's actually a fair there. There's a lot of Ferris wheels and things. So definitely tripod here, getting the long exposure. This is maybe 3-4 seconds. So those Ferris wheels are moving through the scene, creating that interesting effect. This is a shot that I made in Rhyolite, Nevada, just outside of Death Valley. And these are life-size sculptures. This is known as the Last Supper. There's 12 of these. I guess there's 3 more over here that I didn't frame in. But it's sort of Jesus with the 12 apostles. And this is we did light painting. So what we did is I think it was 8 of us, all on tripods. And I said, okay, 1, 2, 3, go. And everyone started the exposure. And then one of us would walk into the scene with a flashlight and paint each one of these sculptures, walking through the scene, right through it. And because they're moving, they're not recorded. And when you're standing there, the sky is pitch black. But because it's about a 30-second exposure, you get that blue hour effect in the background. So you can have some fun with light painting like this. It's very easy to do. It takes some experimentation, but typically, 10 to 20, 30-second shot on a tripod, and just experiment, and you can get some really nice results. And then this is our camera table. You know, it seems like every time we go to lunch or dinner on a group trip, this was in Vietnam, you know, where are we going to put our cameras? So we had a camera table here. And one of the guys set them up, you know, so they're all facing the same way. But the reason I show you this shot is there's not one Nikon or Canon in this shot. Not one person on our trip had a Nikon or a Canon. There was only one full-frame SLR in here. I think it was the Pentax. I'm not a real gearhead. But pretty much everyone was shooting the new category Micro Four Thirds mirrorless cameras. I've moved to that. How many of you are shooting mirrorless? Yep. So that's, if you're not familiar with it, you've kind of got the DSLRs up here, those big, heavy cameras, long lenses, very heavy, expensive. And then in the middle is this mirrorless system, or called Micro Four Thirds. It's very lightweight, small. Lenses can be this big around, this long, you know, really nice travel lens. So I've moved to that because I'm on the road 9 months out of the year and dragging around those big, heavy cameras. Now, I've always been a one body, one lens shooter, but to be able to, you know, walk around with these is just such a luxury these days. So I love going to this system. But I thought that was fun. And then this is a Leica, but it's just like a case for an iPhone. It looks like a Leica. Yeah. So a few additional categories. Maybe talked a little bit about culture and customs. What are people doing in a place that's distinctive? We mentioned what are they wearing, the known hats, the kira in Bhutan. How's the language being used? Remember the el socialismo, those types of situations. The souvenirs and crafts that they're making. And something that I call the underbelly. And what this is to me is it's that part of the place that the tourist office probably isn't advertising. It might be homelessness or graffiti or garbage dumps, things like that. So if you do want to tell the whole story, though, it's a good thing to show that as well. Okay, you guys ready for my number one photo tip? All right. So Patrick Symes, photographer, says, if you don't like getting up early, then be a writer. Now, I told you that I am not someone that's out there for sunrise every day, and I don't bring our groups out for sunrise every day. But I definitely agree with getting out early. And I mentioned a couple reasons. One, I like to be out there certainly before the tourist crowds, which typically get out 9, 10, 11 o'clock. They roll out of bed, and then they go to these sites when the light's at its worst. But it's cooler in the morning in hot places. There's less bugs out. There's less crime because there's no tourists. That's when animals are often active. Of course, you've got the golden hour light, preferably. But it's the locals on their way to work and the kids on their way to school. Those are the people that I want in my photographs. So if you do get out early, and like we do in Cambodia at Siem Reap when we go to the sunrise there, I say take a photographer's siesta. There's a nap for that. Just come back to the room, have a nap, and you'll be okay. So to me, 75% of good photography is simply being in the right place at the right time. 75% of the job is done if you'll put yourself in the right place at the right time. The other 25%, a little bit about the gear. Although again, the first tip in my book, it's not about the camera. I am not someone who chases technology and I've got to always have the top of the line or the next model. It's a little bit about experience. The more you shoot, the better you'll get. But it's a lot about luck. And I talked about being lucky a few times today. So, but the more I'm ready and in the right place at the right time, the luckier I get every time. So, a couple shots that I made. I'm always griping when there's no clouds in a place. So this is an after shot. This is a shot that I made at high noon in Toledo, Spain. I was there scouting for a trip that I was leading. And I said, I'm going to go to this place and get this shot because I looked out my window. I took a nap, looked out my window, and I said, I'm going to go back to that exact same spot that I was 4 hours earlier, 8 o'clock in the morning, because I want to show this after shot. Because when I was there at 8 o'clock in the morning, it looked like this. Yeah, now which shot would you rather have? You know, these beautiful clouds, golden light, just gorgeous time to shoot. Here in Bhutan, so that's, you know, early in the mornings when you're going to have these really nice mist is happening. That's weather conditions, things like that. You can get some interesting shots. This man is wearing a go. So this, I mentioned the women wear a kira, the men wear a go, G-H-O. And so I had been there by myself with my group, or by myself scouting, and then I brought a group back the next year, and our guide Sange always wearing the go. And one of the people said, you know, what if you don't wear the go? He says, no, you have to wear the go. It's, you know, it's something that the government says. If you're working and a man, you must wear the go. He says, well, what if you don't? He says, you wear the go. There's no question. You just wear it. But it's just really interesting. You know, they fold the sleeves over. They wear these black socks that, you know, come up to here, and they wear dress shoes often. So it's an interesting, you know, fashion that they wear, but it's theirs. So it's really great. Here, a man out in the fields, cutting down the wheat, or excuse me, the hay that I talked about earlier in Romania, right? Well, when I heard about hay, I'm thinking of straw, you know, like bales of straw that you see in a horse farm or something. Well, there it's like 50 different types of grasses, flowers, herbs. That's what they're cutting down and putting into those big piles for the animals over the winter. Here, horse wearing this yarn, red yarn on either side of its head. And if there's two horses, the one on the right will have one on its right-hand side, the one on the left will have one on the left-hand side. And this is something I've never seen anywhere else. This is in Romania. And this is acts as an evil eye. So it's meant to keep away the evil spirits. Never seen it anywhere else. But again, out early in the morning, this man taking the milk down to a co-op, and his horse wearing that yarn. Here in Trakai, this is the former capital of Lithuania. And so I was with my guide, and we were going to go into the castle. It's about 4:15. She says, it closes at 5. We better get going. I said, well, give me a minute. I want to get these shots with these clouds. Beautiful, nice light. He says, we really got to go. I says, okay, hang on. So we get these shots. So we go inside. We finish up at 5 o'clock. They kick us out. And this is what it looked like at 5 o'clock. 45 minutes later, completely different, clouds gone. So don't wait around thinking that, okay, they'll be there when I get out, because they may not be. Here at the Taj Mahal, I was there the morning. The morning there was the evening back here when my Chicago Cubs won the World Series, Game 7. So I'm photographing, and all my friends are texting me, keeping me posted on the score. But we went out there, and we had this beautiful misty morning. Sometimes in India, maybe it's not mist. It might be smog. But this was misty. This was mist. But just a beautiful time to be out there. Gorgeous. Some nice framing opportunities there. Give back. So I go to these places over and over again. I'm very lucky to go back to these places. Perhaps you do sometimes as well. But what I say is try to bring back pictures of people that you photographed. Or if you got a Polaroid like that man in Bhutan that gave the picture of that woman that I saw. Well, this is on the bamboo train in Cambodia. And so, I want to show the tracks going out the back. I want to show the motion of, the fact that we're moving. So this is maybe a 1/10 of a second shot. But I brought this picture back to this man the next year. And he was very thankful. This is a woman that I see all the time on the riverfront there in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. Brought this picture back to her the next year, and she started crying. Oftentimes these people don't have pictures of themselves. They don't even have mirrors. But this is a very inexpensive, lightweight, very meaningful gift for these people. So I highly recommend that if you can, bring back pictures. This shot I made in Silk Island in Cambodia, and I brought it back the next year, and this woman had passed away over the course of the year. But how thankful were their family to get this shot a year later, after she had passed away. So that was kind of nice. This man I captured in Trinidad, Cuba. Brought that back to him. Here, a young girl, again, at the end of the bamboo train. I buy some of these bracelets from her and her friends. Try to help them with their English. Brought this back to her the next year. Her name's Yayo. And then this little girl, this was in Chefchaouen. Remember the Blue City in Morocco? And you could see her just getting right in my face as I'm photographing her, pretty close up. Well, I brought this picture back. It was about 2.5 years later that I brought this picture back. I think it had been a span of time in between. And I saw a young girl in the same square that I'd made this shot. And I asked my guide, I said, would you ask her if she knows who this girl is? And so he does, and he says, that's me. It was her. It was her. And I wouldn't have recognized her. How kids grow in 2.5 years. So I brought this back to her. I gave this to her that day, and she would not let me take a picture of her. So she got a little bit shy over the course of those 2.5 years. And then remember earlier I said that I'd never see a Tarahumara Indian smile. Well, this is in Divisadero, and I'm walking around with these pictures I'd made the year or two before and showing it, do you know these people? And I have about a 70% success rate of bringing these pictures back. And sure enough, she's like, those are my children. And she had no picture of them, and she didn't stop smiling for 10 minutes. That was really wonderful. I love the Chicago Bears shirt on the kid. So they're very serious people, but to see her smile like that, it was like, nice, yeah. So I say you can't get worse at photography. The more you're out there shooting, doing things like this, getting out, taking classes, whatever you're doing to improve your photography, the more you're doing it, the better you'll get, guaranteed. So just keep out there, keep shooting, keep learning. And invest in yourself, get out and travel. The way to get these kinds of shots is to be in these kinds of places. Now, New York's one of the great cities in the world. There's a lot of photo opportunities here, absolutely. Chicago, certainly. But to get these more exotic types of shots, sometimes you have to go to these places. So get out there. If you'd like more information about me and what I do, go to photoenrichment.com. But thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Whether you're a hobbyist or a professional, B&H has the answers to your questions. Experience a world of technology at our New York City Superstore. Connect with us online or give us a call. Our staff of experts is happy to help.